The average size of the American home has nearly tripled in the past 100 years. Today, I'm discussing 5 reasons why I think smaller houses are generally better for us. Of course, everyone is in a different situation in life, but I think for many people, a smaller amount of square footage is actually healthier, not just for your mind, but also for your body and even your soul. You might think that sounds crazy, but let me explain. The first reason, of course, is the cost. Generally, the smaller the square footage, the smaller the price tag. And of course, as you know, there are so many other things that go into this, such as location, amount of property. But having a smaller house will most likely cost you less in the long run, not only because of the initial price, but also the price of heating, air conditioning, remodeling, and so many other costs. And I believe having a lower cost life can have a great impact on your stress levels. The Bible says the borrower is slave to the lender, so the less debt we're in, the better. That being said, cost is not the only reason I think living in a smaller space is beneficial. The next reason is it automatically keeps you from collecting too many things you don't need. You kind of accidentally become somewhat of a minimalist, and that is great for the mind. It reduces anxiety tremendously for me. When we have too much junk to deal with, it really causes extra stress that is unnecessary. So when we have less space to cram things in our home, we then more frequently need to organize these things and get rid of the things that we don't need because we just don't have the space. And that clears up space in our minds as well. So then we have more energy for spending time with family, being creative, and enjoying things like nature. Which brings me to my next point, which is when you have a smaller house, it may inspire you to spend more time outdoors. This means more time in the healthy sunshine, moving your body, exercising, breathing in fresh air. All in all, great for your body and mind. You might be wondering why I'm saying it could be good for the soul as well. One day I was listening to someone discuss how they were living in an RV temporarily while they looked for a home because they were relocating. They said that they noticed that their family was spending so much more time together. They realized that in their larger home, they had been spending large amounts of time in separate areas of the house. In the RV, however, they all had to learn and get used to doing things in close quarters. This became a cherished time with one another, and they decided to buy a smaller home. I have also noticed this in my own life. I remember when I was little, our kitchen was a separate room from our living room. So when my mom was making us dinner, she would be in a separate room for a couple of hours during that special time in the evening when the whole family is together. I also noticed this when my husband and I have lived in 2-story homes. He would often be upstairs working on things while I would be downstairs working on things, and we would be spending large amounts of time separate. But now we spend much more time together while we're both working on our own things, whether that be tasks or hobbies. The 5th reason I think living in a smaller home is generally better is because there's less to clean. Before we downsized to a smaller square footage house, we had this huge spare room, and every week I would clean it. I would think to myself, there's really no point to this room. All I do is clean it, and I'd have more time if we didn't even have this room. Now my cleaning routine is so much easier because we have less space to deal with. I want to conclude this discussion by mentioning that the size of your home doesn't really matter if you have self-discipline and a well-managed family, and that will look different for everyone. So we have to decide what we think is most appropriate for our life. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.